We're really thankful for each one of our panelists for being here. And we are going to upload this panel on YouTube afterwards, so you'll be able to find it on our Twitter page and on YouTube. Okay, recording is working. So let's go ahead and get started. Mark, take it away.
Well, thank you, David. I'm Mark Albertson. I'm senior writer for SiliconANGLE Media, and I'm very pleased to be moderating a panel tonight on fintech and crypto in South America. We've got a great set of panelists assembled tonight, and just a couple of little points before we kick this off. As I'm going to start by having each of you introduce yourselves very briefly, and then as we go through the night with our discussion, I'm going to kick off each question by calling on one of you, just to start, and then as we feel free to chime in after I select one of you to begin the question. But it goes a little better if I can choose one first, and then after that person answers, feel free to talk as much as you want on the question, and then we'll just keep moving. So with that brief introduction, let's go ahead and get started and have each of you introduce yourselves very briefly. Diego, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Mark. I'm Diego Gutierrez Aldivar. I'm the CEO of IOV Labs and also co-founder of RSK Blockchain and the Bitcoin Argentina and Iberoamerica NGOs. So I've been in Bitcoin since 2012, so quite a long ride.
Okay, who wants to go next?
Yes, I can take it. I'm Sebastian Serrano. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ripio. We are one of the largest or the largest cryptocurrency wallet and exchange in South America. We are currently have 1.5 million users, and our main countries are Argentina and Brazil. I know a few faces here for many years too. I'm also an OG in crypto, and excited to be on this panel to discuss crypto and fintech.
Great, Manuel, why don't you go next? You're next on my screen.
Okay, Emmanuel Ferrari, I'm co-founder of Manion Chain. Manion Chain is a DeFi protocol that built the first stablecoin backed by Bitcoin, and it has other tokens, a token for people holders, and leverage Bitcoin positions. And this is a project built onto RSK a Bitcoin sidechain. So we've been working with Dieguito and with Gabriel for many years. But very excited to be here too.
Excellent. Gabriel, why don't you go next?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to introduce myself a little bit different, because I almost everything I've learned in these many years actually come from Dieguito, from Seba, and from many of the guys in this panel and the community. I'm an economist, so I don't have the technical background, and it was really the Argentine and Latin American communities who blew my mind and taught me about Bitcoin and the potential of this technology. So I had the luck of co-founding a few projects, the RSK blockchain. I'm part of IOV Labs now as well. Coibank's La Bitcoineta. I've been helping on the La Bitconf, which is this amazing conference that has been running for so many years in every single country of Latin America, led by Dieguito, Rodo Franco, and a huge number of volunteers in the region. I also helped co-found La Bitcoineta, which is a minivan that travels around Latin America explaining Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and Blockchain for Humanity, which is another NGO that helps and finds blockchain solutions with positive human impact. Super happy to be here after so many years and see these old faces that I seen when they were very young, keep on building and pushing this revolution forward.
Okay, and Bruno, go ahead.
I'm co-founder of DeFi, which is a wallet, a self-custodial wallet and multi-currency for Bitcoin and Ethereum and RSK. So I also happily work really close to Manuel, to Gabi, also a bit with Diego, and yeah, we're besides the wallet, we've got an integrated peer-to-peer marketplace, but you can also buy or sell crypto, and well, we've got a neat integration with many of the solutions that have been built on RSK, and yeah, also really glad to be here. Thanks.
All right, well, that sounds great. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Let's just go right into the discussion here. You know, when I was doing some research for this panel, I was kind of surprised to find that there were 4 of the top 20 global cryptocurrency adoption countries in the world were in South America. I really didn't know that. And so why don't we go ahead and start with you, Diego, by talking a little bit about why has South America become a center of activity for crypto? What is it about the region that is contributing to that?
Well, I think Latin America has all the perfect ingredients for crypto to thrive, in the sense that we have economies that are very unstable. I would say you can add to that, we have corrupt governments is part of our history, pitifully, and people is always trying to hedge and protect their wealth somehow. So they are always like very aware of macroeconomic, of the macroeconomic impact, how macroeconomics will impact their lives, and also they are diversifying like how they store their wealth. Many of our economies are split into a dollar and the local currency economy already. People save dollars under the mattress. That's like the concept of protecting your wealth. And I think that awareness of how macroeconomics can impact your life, that instability, and it's basically, I mean, that's why crypto was born. No, crypto was born out of a big financial crisis in 2008. So it's Bitcoin, no? It was born out of that. So in Latin America, you don't have to explain why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are relevant. People understand right away what's the purpose. So I think that is, plus that in many countries in Latin America, you have a great adoption of technology in general, like the pervasiveness of the internet, social networks is very big. And I think clearly cryptocurrencies are at the crossroads of those two things, is finance and technology together. So I think, yeah, when you live in Latin America, it's pretty evident why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are needed.
Okay, who wants to chime in on that? Who wants to talk? Diego kind of set the stage. Why South America?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like a little bit of like personal experience into that is like, I'm not even 40, and I've seen 4 major economic crises in Argentina. I have seen 3 different paper money, like the entire crypto, the entire country's currency has been like rebased 3 times, and this has become, as Diego said, part of the culture. There is a lack of trust of institutions and a search for safety, and people have become very good at it. Like, to give some numbers, Argentina last year officially had 30% inflation, but in reality it was even more. Brazil had 40% inflation, and Argentina is close to be 20 years in double-digit inflation levels. So all this has created a perfect storm for adoption. Together with last year, we saw a lot of adoption. Like we at Ripio doubled our user base, and we're doing 3 times more. We did 3 times more volume last year than the previous one, and now with the rallies, all these numbers are growing. All our numbers are growing even faster. But it all has, I guess, like we all here, kind of like got into develop for this technology, start working with this technology because we saw the potential to impact our countries and the region, and not only all these lack of good sound money or good currencies. We also have a very lacking financial financial services. More than half of the population doesn't have access to formal or semi-formal financial services. So we can really leapfrog and like rebuild a new system that works better and also includes more people. And so I guess like that's why we're in this group from different angles working on this technology.
Yes, Mark, what I would add is that this is not something that we've been told. This is something that all of us lived in firsthand. Like it happened to me, to my family. We lost in the bank our life savings. My uncle lost his house in the hyperinflation of '89. And I'm sure everyone in the panel has like 3-4 situations where their families either lost all their savings or just were luckily protected because they were on a good store of value and not sitting on local currency or in a bank deposit. So I think there's something very unique that is happening right now in the world with the crisis that we're living, that most people in the central economies cannot believe what's happening and say, oh no. And we kind of say, oh no, it's happening again. Like we've been living through these kind of crises in Argentina, in Venezuela, in Latin America for so many decades and so often that the entrepreneurs that thrived in that environment, it's because they are actually quite good. So this is something, this is another strength that I think Latin America has had. Many projects fail. It's very extremely difficult to beat interest rates that governments just provide because of their national bonds. So only very unique entrepreneurs and projects can thrive. But as Diego and Seba were saying, if you want to foster financial inclusion and if you have innovative fintech solutions that can provide financial services to billions, then Latin America is the playground because it's where these technologies needed the most.
Manuel or Bruno, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I could add just a little tip that it's really also supporting what Diego and Gabriel were saying. It's really interesting to see how people get involved in these technologies without even knowing too much of the technical background. But that's really, really good. I mean, it's amazing because even not knowing what a dollar on chain is or how it works, for instance, as soon as they know that it's more or less the same or even better than having a dollar, they get into it. You know, some years ago it happened a lot with DAI, and now it's happening every time more with dollar on chain, for instance. And you don't need to have really a really deep technical background in order to use it, and you see it from people of every from all kind of different backgrounds, getting stable coins mainly, for instance. It's really nice. I think that's where you see that this is really happening.
Yeah, I think one more thing into that, and I guess Manuel can give his perspective on it, is that in Argentina there has been a lot of adoption of stablecoins, and since last year, and we don't see this across South America, but it's special of Argentina, because in March last year, Argentina went into a default of their national debt. And when that happened, the government, to try to preserve reserves of the central bank, imposed a limit for people to not being able to buy more than $200 per month of US dollars. So this, with a very long tradition of saving money in their mattresses, buying hard currency, made a lot of people go into alternatives, and crypto provided this new alternative, which is stable coins. So you don't have to be speculating or investing in the future value of Bitcoin. It started to grow a lot of traction, and well, Bitcoin is still has the highest volumes for us, and people mostly the cryptocurrency that they mostly acquire is Bitcoin. The second one on our case is the stable coins, because of this reason. It has become an alternative to buy physical dollars or dollars in your bank account, and that has created ginormous adoption. And we are even we're even seeing what something like Bruno was saying a bit is there we even have very good conversion rates with older segments. We have very good conversion rates on people that is over 60, and amazingly, we have better conversion rates over 60 than in the 50 to 60, and it has to do with their experience with more financial crises, and that is kind of triggering this, and this is something very unique to Argentina.
Yes, I really, one of the things that Sebastian mentioned when he was explaining about Latin America is the lack of financial, the lack of trust in financial institutions or institutions in general in this region. So I think the mixture of not having strong currencies plus the possibility of having a trustless or trust minimized money, it's like the perfect mix for most of the inhabitants of this region. And on top of that, I think we are quite we are very used to assume risks, financial risk, because all of us, as Gabriel mentioned, most of all our families have lost money in many ways in very different financial investments in the past. So we are all the time looking for ways to invest the money and how to protect. So I think the aversion to risk, to financial risk, is very low. People in this region try new things because you risk too little because you know that it's very difficult to keep your money. That's my point of view.
Yeah, when currency depreciates 10% per month or more, the cost of just not exploring alternatives is so high.
Yeah, the opportunity cost.
No, that's a great point. You know, for the benefit of our audience, let's add a little bit more specifics to what you're seeing in Latin America right now. And I'm going to kind of combine two questions for you. And that's, you know, what are the countries in South America that really stand out right now as leaders in cryptocurrency activities? And then along with that, what are some of the companies that are also viewed as major players in the space? And Manuel, why don't we start with you this time?
I think it's obviously there is a matter of size of the population. So if you see the size of Mexico or Brazil, obviously the biggest market in Latin America is always going to be Mexico and Brazil. But I think that in time of activity per population, Argentina and maybe in Venezuela are very special cases because of the high inflation or hyperinflation. And regarding the entrepreneurial or technology of projects, I would say that in Argentina the ecosystem is huge. Maybe because of the financial conditions, but also because there's a lot of technology firms based here in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. Global firms are based here. Big tech firms have a lot of people, and the conditions are, as I explained before, are perfect for that. And regarding players, well, you know, Sebastian Ripio is one of the biggest Latin American firms. I would say Bitso from Mexico obviously is a huge player. That's on exchanges, but also now it's coming foreign players like Binance is really a big player in Latin America, I think. You have very big project and important global project as RSK, you know, that have been originated in the region.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. What I wanted to say is that, interestingly, each country has a different dynamic and different relation to crypto. If you go to Mexico, a lot of the activity is related to remittances. If you go to Brazil, maybe Sebastian can supplement in more detail, but originally it was a lot related to speculation and
it's more trading.
Exactly. So it was related to trading activity. If you go to Venezuela, clearly remittances, it's a huge part of it. If you go to Argentina, it's about, as we mentioned before, you know, protecting wealth and hedging against the local inflation and local economical instability. So it's interesting because in Latin America, not all the countries are relating to crypto in the same way, although there are some shared patterns. I would say if you have to pick two, is like you know, protection of wealth and remittances are clearly like where the crypto space is dominating and where we see the activity grow more and more. But the countries are different. Each case is a different case, and that's another element important to understand Latin America. Latin America is not a monolithic region. It's more of a patchwork of cultures, regulatory frameworks. So when people go to Latin America, sometimes if they go with the expectation of going to a more unified region like the European region, for example, they will find it is a much tougher place to navigate because of this diversity.
That's great. Anyone else want to add to the discussion on that?
Go ahead, sir.
I didn't know to Manuel mention of like players. I will take a different angle and say like because of how early has been adoption, you also see a lot of innovative projects that have born from hubs like Buenos Aires or across the region that that are working on and they have become very important to the ecosystem. RSK is working on smart contracts for Bitcoin. You also have companies like Open Zeppelin, which is doing a smart contract security, and it's like almost being used by every project that is doing a token or an ICO or anything on DeFi. And there is a lot of developers that have been educated and learned about this technology in the region that created a lot of that. And adding a bit to what Diego said, yeah, so different countries have different they have different challenges, and people seek different use cases have become more prevalent depending on the country. In Venezuela, the financial restrictions are so tough that remittances with crypto is likely one of the only ways that you can send money to your family if you're abroad. So we see a lot of users buying crypto with those in Argentina or in reals in Brazil and sending Bitcoin to their families in Venezuela, and that's a very important use case. And then in Argentina, we see more people buying and holding, not so many speculation, and so this that patchwork that Diego mentioned. Also, some of the countries in the west of South America are more stable. Like Chile has a much better currency and has a very good banking system. So it is more like the US. The use case is more speculation and looking for maximize wealth, not protected. Gabriel, you were about to say something.
No, I agree. Just thinking on other projects, we have some great wallets. The Moon wallet, which is specially made for Lightning Network, it's super relevant and has great reviews. Defiant also, of course, is one of my favorite ones. And then we also have the Decentraland team that also has a Latin American heart. And of course, money on chain, which I think is one of the new jewels from the ecosystem, enabling stable coins with collateral in Bitcoin. As the guy said before, every country is different. What I find the most interesting is what's happening in Venezuela, and especially for those of you in Silicon Valley and other parts of the world. I think there's a lot that you guys can, and we can all learn from what's happening in Latin America, from what's happening in Nigeria, from what's happening in Lebanon, because we know that the fiat currencies will eventually lose their current share of the market because the way they are being printed out through quantitative easing. But the weakest ones are the first ones that are going to fall. So we have the possibility to see what happens and how the society goes around these kind of issues. And in Venezuela right now, it's an economy that is dollarized, but they don't have physical bills. So when you want to buy something, they charge you 20% for the $1 note bills, because otherwise people cannot give you change back when you want to buy something on the street. So the poorest families in Latin America, in Venezuela, are paying 20% to get cash to be able to get change back when they need to buy food or something. So there's a mass adoption of crypto in general, Bitcoin, stable coins, because they are desperately needing a solution. And I think this is something that we're going to start seeing in other parts of the world, that people should be studying in the US, in Europe, what's happening in Latin America and Africa, because maybe, we don't know, but maybe this is a path that other fiat currencies in the world might follow in the near future.
I want to follow up on something that Sebastian mentioned, which had to do with financial restrictions. As we all know from our participation in this space, and for me as a journalist covering it, regulations and government authorities have played a major role in the adoption of these currencies, or in many cases, the non-adoption of them. So I'm curious what the regulatory climate looks like in South America. And Gabrielle, I know you've co-founded a number of for-profit and non-profit companies. Why don't we pick up with you on that, and then we'll let the others chime in as well.
Seba, you want to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can give some background. So it varies by country too. I was in general the regulations across the country across countries are lacking, and still there isn't so many regulations in countries. There are only 2 countries, but most of the country has been very positive and not aggressive against cryptocurrencies. The only 2 countries that have tried to restrict it have been in Bolivia through the central bank that banned cryptocurrencies from the payment system and to banks, and Ecuador has also restrictions on payments with cryptocurrencies. But this is something that is is starting to change rapidly. In Argentina, there are 2 projects for enhancing laws for cryptocurrencies that are being discussed. They are currently being discussed, and both are not trying to ban the industry or the technology. There are in Argentina norms on how to do your taxes, and then in other countries there is more or less different things. There is a trial in Colombia that allows banks to bank cryptocurrency startups under some limits. In Brazil, there is a law where it's being exchanges are being it's a norm for fintechs, but add a paragraph about cryptocurrencies, and everybody's working with that little piece of regulation. But I think this year a lot more, especially because there are some international bodies for anti-money laundering and that forcing the countries that are member, like GAFI, for example, to have regulations and norms, especially for central banks. But usually, the first look from people from abroad into how our government react is usually, well, governments are going to have a very aggressive response with this to cryptocurrencies and this technology. But actually, what you have to understand is that usually these governments are trying to protect their dollar reserves from the central bank. For example, in Argentina, they're trying to maintain the reserves at this. So as long as there is the things are going to put restriction to trade, to foreign exchange transactions, how to do like export and imports. And they're gonna look about that it doesn't create a for dollars, because what they're trying to do is to keep the dollar reserves. And if people is buying crypto with pesos or reals, that is not something that put pressure into the central. And the ones that but may have like some concerns into how it impacts the payment systems. You know, who else wants to provide some views into that?
So,
no,
go Dieguito.
Another thing that is important is that when you talk about regulation for crypto, and you know, it's it has multiple dimensions, because it's like on one side is the things related to the monetary aspects that Sebastian was describing, with central banks and you know, to the need to protect the policy, the monetary policies of each nation. Then you have the regulations around anti-money laundering and financing of terrorism, which also Sebastian mentioned, that are enforced through policymakers like FAFTA and FAFTA and Gafi are the same institution, just in French and English. But so that it's mostly, it has been always the main concern by the global policymakers. No, it always the main concern around cryptocurrencies was around that. Then there is another concern, that is consumer protection, but that is enforced, as cryptocurrencies so far haven't been mainstream. I think that's going to change, because what we are seeing is that cryptocurrencies are making a push into mainstream. It was not a big problem because the consumer exposure, like the retail investor or the retail consumer exposure to crypto, was very limited. We were talking about less than 1% of the population being exposed to crypto. Was not a big deal. Was mentioned, you know, at the OECD meetings, but it was not that big. And finally, financial stability, which also again is very related. I think is what Sebastian was mentioning, no? Like saying, okay, how these can destabilize the monetary policies and everything, which, while the adoption stays under certain limits, is not a big problem. They will focus more on other problems, like you know, how people fly to the dollar or import exports, different ways where people can get out of the local currency and move into dollars. So I would say, and then you have the taxing issue, but that's also very diverse. Like, and we still don't have a shared framework, because some see cryptocurrencies. We have in Argentina, for example, one regulation treating all cryptocurrency activity like financial speculation activity, while you know that it can be used as payments, it can be used as store of value. So, you know, there was some, I would say, in that area, in the taxing places, where regulators have the toughest time trying to find a framework that is appropriate for this. And mostly because they are trying to tax the asset and not the uses of the asset, which is the right way to do this. No, it's like, it doesn't matter if I'm, you know, paying I don't know, a luxury car, Lamborghini, with dollars, with bitcoins, or with cows. At the end, I will follow the same procedures in regards of AML, CFT, but that understanding of the thing is still not there for regulators. So many of them act out of fear. The superintendency of Colombia, for example, was a great example. Was like killing Bitcoin every 2 years, like systematically. Now they open this sandbox, and they are starting to open the game, you know, in conjunction with the traditional financial institutions. But for a long time, there was a lot of fear around the use of crypto for, of course, you know, drug dealing, and also they have a lot of Ponzi pyramidal models in Colombia, which is especially bad in that country, and very likely not the same in other places. So, well, I think I run all over the place, but I think the concept is like when you talk about regulation, it's multiple things. It's not like one thing. It's like all these different dimensions that apply to regulating the crypto space and the crypto activities.
Mark, I would like to add something that it could definitely be worse, no, in Latin America, and it could be much better, no. But something that I think is a constant is that all the communities across Latin America have been very active in communicating this technology to the regulators and to engage with you know, the local players, trying to explain this, because as we said before, we have like 50% of the population in Latin America is poor and unbanked. So we need this technology. We have nothing to lose, if you want, because we are not the current owners of the legacy financial system. But we've been you know, indoctrinated to follow the orders from the US in the last 50, 70 years. So it's very difficult for local regulators to open their minds and see this technological revolution as an opportunity to create new jobs and promote innovation. But everyone from the local NGOs, from the community members, the companies, and Ripi and Seba have been doing a lot of work and push, explaining this, participating in the innovation tables with the central banks. Dieguito was several years involved as well. And I think if Latin America, it's better position that it could have been, a lot we should thank to these community members and projects and companies opening up and sharing information and explaining the technology to these bureaucrats that have to take a decision and rule out this technology, taking this innovation and startups somewhere else, no, from the region. So I think there's a lot of work to be done still. And we should keep on pushing, because Latin America could play a key role in the world of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And I think in some part it's playing quite a significant role, much more than in other prior revolutions that we've had in the last couple of decades.
Well, that's great. I think you all covered the field very nicely there. I want to switch gears for a second and talk a little bit about the blockchain infrastructure. I noticed a story in late January that the blockchain infrastructure provider Core Ledger launched an initiative to tokenize agricultural assets in Argentina. And I was curious to get the thoughts of the panel tonight about whether commodity tokenization is something that may become bigger in Latin America, perhaps, than it is in other parts of the world. Bruno, why don't, I know you've been involved in the blockchain. You want to take that one to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it up. Really try to be quick. Yeah, I think there have been projects, tokenization projects in Argentina for quite some years already now. For instance, Open Vino in Mendoza was one of the first I heard of. Actually, it was founded by an American guy who lives here, Mike, really good pal. And yeah, he tokenized his wine production, and that
good
was
wine.
I think. And good wine indeed, yeah. And yeah, there have been also, for instance, in the RSK community, we've got Wadafan also, which is really interesting. And in Argentina, we're really open to business. So I've got no doubt that tokenization will for sure be big here, yeah, as in other parts of the world also. Yeah, I hope that in the next years we'll see a lot of it.
I think that this is still early for that type of specialized use case of the technology. We do have one of our early employees left a few months ago to start a project to tokenize soy, and and I think there's going to be several iterations into this, but many producers and farmers have their supply chain tied to their production. So a farmer usually thinks in terms of how much production they do, and because of all the currency controls that exist and capital controls and all the controls that exist into accessing into foreign currencies, something that happens in the region is that farmers end up trading and exchanging goods with certificates of the production that is in silos being stored, and that is all being done through paper, and it's all done in with a lot of trust. So in order to have trust, also that means that the market is produced, and if we are able to build better technology to replace all these certificates of productions or like collateralization of debt through using this technology, it will have a lot of adoption, and it will help a lot to create a lot more economy and business for farmers. I think it's likely that when there is some success, it's gonna have to be in a major market like soy or some produce that is large. I do think we're still a bit early into these use cases, but I definitely think that they're gonna happen.
Yes, I agree with Sebastian that it's still early in the sense that you have maybe a mismatch, because when you tokenize real assets, no, whether it's commodities, real estate, or any physical asset, I think potentially that can enable the provision to make liquid assets that are illiquid by nature. No, but for that to happen, you need secondary markets. You need, to have like a financial infrastructure around it to really provide liquidity to the asset. So tokenizing the asset is the first step. Like I like to say, is like now we have the tools to create digital twins of the world, to create like a digital representation of every asset in the world in a trustable way. A little bit of what Sebastian was saying. But then, once you have that, one valuable thing about that is that people who traditionally cannot access to those assets or markets because they require a certain amount of investment, now can have a smaller share. So it democratizes access to these and eventually can provide liquidity. The thing is that the people in crypto today is with a risk appetite that is not akin of the risk appetite on commodities, or they are so accustomed to high yield, high risk that for them is not. So we have a gap between the people who is actually active on the crypto markets and these kind of offers. But as crypto becomes more and more mainstream, I think that will change, and what we'll have is people with the appetite of participating in these tokenized assets, and then we'll see a match between the liquidity needs of markets that today, as Sebastian said, are not finding ways out. So they decide to leave the grains in silos for maybe 2-3 years because selling the grains is disadvantageous, and they don't want to do that. So for those producers, having access to more liquidity would be a very valuable thing, and you need to find the other match of people willing to enter into the commodities market. I think that's a challenge for the ecosystem as well. I think so far decentralized finance, DeFi, has been mostly serving the crypto space, has been kind of an endogenous ecosystem. Like so you have lending but collateralized with crypto. So it's liquidity provision for crypto holders in crypto assets, and is more or less of a self-serve economy. But I think as this tokenization of commodities and things meets the crypto liquidity, if we manage to make that happen, there is potential there to match both worlds. But we need to find that point of where the desires of one side meets the needs of the other, and we are not quite there. I think still we have the crypto holders are looking for much higher returns, and they don't care about the risk profile, very high risk investments. But again, I think as the ecosystem matures and it becomes more mainstream, we will see that match happening between.
All right, we've got a little over 5 minutes left, and so what I'd like to do is kind of close out with a crystal ball, a forecast. Hopefully a year from now, maybe I can be in South America, or you can be in Silicon Valley. But at the very least, I'd like to get your thoughts on, it's a year later from today, what does the picture look like for fintech and cryptocurrencies in South America? And Manuel, why don't we start with you?
I think that, well, in terms of growth, because crypto is much smaller market than fintech market in Latin America, which is really big. I think it is going to grow a lot. In proportion, and because the potential is so high. And also I think in 1 year we will see a lot of fintech firms going into crypto, and a lot of crypto firms and crypto projects merging or doing alliances or working with much more closely with fintech. I think during the last years, it's been like two separate sectors growing both at very high growth, but not so close really. And I see that in the next years this is going to merge a lot, not only with fintech but also with the traditional financial system, as it's happening in the States. Kraken going, getting a banking license. I see most probably a Ripio, a Bitso, whatever firm getting a banking license very soon in Latin America, or a new firm going into banking from crypto. So or the other way around. I see a Santander going into crypto. This is going to happen. I'm most probably we will see this next year or in the following ones. I don't know, Sebastian, if you want to tell us.
I'm not as looking for a banking license. I think that will change all our cost structure. And one of the things that makes banks don't bank half of the population is the cost structures that they have that make it they make not profitable to bank the poorest sectors. And I think we have the opportunity through technology to be able to reach more people, and that requires that your cost of acquisition has to be low. So anyway, but in terms of the market, I think we're gonna continue to see a lot of growth. I think like we are likely going to see something similar like that last year, doubling user bases across crypto projects. And I think we're gonna start seeing something that started to happen in the US, which is the adoption of crypto by institutions. I think this is the year we're gonna start also seeing like a following of having more corporations and even governments acquiring crypto. And we'll see how the market evolves globally, but it's looking that it's going to be a very intense rally, and I expect this to be a catalyzer to grow a lot the industry. And I think a lot of like different discussions are going to start happening. We're stopping being like under single digits and started to be meaningful in populations. In Argentina, we already have more than 2% of the population sign up. So if our prediction goes well, we will likely end the year maybe with 5% of the population with an account in review, and we'll see like other competitors also growing a lot, and that means that it's gonna be a very meaningful market. So discussions are likely gonna start being different in many aspects. Diego,
I
have you next to me?
Yes, I think I agree on that. I think I said already in some interviews that I think 2021 is the beginning of the mainstream adoption era for crypto. But also I think there's the convergence of fintech and crypto is coming. Crypto has solved technically, I would say the three main problems that crypto has are scalability historically, because blockchains don't scale well, but there are technical solutions. I don't want to get too technical, but there are technical solutions for scaling and be able to process tens or thousands of transactions per second at a very, very low cost. There are some friction issues in the traditional crypto platforms. If you interact directly with the platform, you need to have the native currency. So, for example, to operate on RSK, you need whatever token you're moving, dollar on chain plus Bitcoin, which is the native currency. In Ethereum, you need DAI plus Ether. And that was creating a lot of friction, an experience for the user that is very unnatural. And we have now technologies that solve that problem. And we need to see this evolving. So now, during 2021, we will have in production the technologies that will make the user experience on the crypto space akin to that of a neobank. So that will change the landscape a lot. But on top of that, what I think is crypto has the potential of starting the long tail of fintech. I think, crypto as infrastructure has the opportunity, the possibility of building solutions with very low operational cost from the beginning and high security. So you pay as you go. And I think that's something that will happen during 2021, 2022, is that we will have the tools available. So a fintech will be able to go from idea to production in under a quarter, for example. So that has the potential. If you have that and you pay security as you go, you say, okay, I will pay, for doing settlement of the transactions of my users every hour, and then I will pay, $500 per month, or I want to do every minute, and then of course I will pay 60 times more. But I can choose the level of security and operational cost. Then you are enabling small fintechs to start testing, validating, or even serving small user bases, like saying, okay, you can be successful having 5,000, 10,000 users and be very ultra focused on a certain community. So I think crypto will be the infrastructure that will revolutionize and give birth to the next generation of fintech organizations. And I don't think that's evident yet, but will be very evident at the end of the year or early 2022.
Gabriel, would you like to add to that?
Yes, just a very short comment. I see kind of two different trends. On one hand, I think Bitcoin major players will become like a black hole of attention with major IPOs like Coinbase, Ripio, hopefully, like projects really taking over fintech, no? And even starting questioning ourselves, what is fintech without Bitcoin or blockchain, no, or cryptocurrencies? And I think that's happening. We are, as Seba was saying, this is just the beginning of this bull market, and it's actually understanding that this is going to be the financial system of the future, not the one we're going to use in Mars. It's going to be based on cryptography. But at the same time, I think we're going to see a path towards decentralization, not only in the financial system, but also in many other aspects of our internet life, identity, marketplaces, decentralized finance. And I think this is a trend because we are in a very specific moment in human history where there's a minimum trust in our politicians, in our corporations that control our lives. And I think that's another trend that I'm really looking forward to see, because I think it's very healthy to recover kind of or rebalance the power between centralized entities, private and public, that control the civil society, and the users that want to recover their privacy and the freedom to express. So I see those trends kind of opposite, if you want, at some point, decentralization and decentralization. But Bitcoin and blockchain technology and crypto in particular are getting 10 times more attention that we're currently seeing.
Okay, and Bruno, I don't know if you're still with us, but you're welcome to give us the last word.
Sure, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm really bullish as well about this year that has just started. I'd hope at least, I'm at least as optimistic as Sebastian. I'd expect that at least the people that get into the ecosystem at least to double. And yeah, I foresee all the entry barriers, yeah, going down as well. Also, yeah, also some fintechs trying to go into the crypto space, and yeah, a lot of new tools and projects being built this year. Hopefully, let's hope that in times as short as Diego said. So yeah, it'll be a really nice year to be around in the ecosystem.
Well, great. Thank you all very much for a very lively and very fulfilling discussion tonight on this. David, I don't know if you're still online, if you want to say anything to close us out. Otherwise, I'm happy to do the honors here. Are you still around? Here he comes. Oh, he's coming into the room.
No, I don't have anything.
Can we all finish?
Dancing. Well,
all right.
Honestly, I really appreciate you everyone, all of our panelists taking the time. I know that the hour difference is a little bit rough with so many of you being in Argentina, but we really appreciate it. I think that I've seen all of you guys give videos before, but I think that this is the first time that we've been able to get all of you together and give this information in English to really reach a super broad audience here in the United States to learn more about what's going on. So we really appreciate you, and thank you to everybody who came and stuck around and watched. And yeah, have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Thank you all very much.
Great pleasure. Thank you, Mark, for moderating.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey guys, nice to see you.
Hasta pronto.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well,